Miss Dora Ellis has been teaching the youth Sunday school at the Wildwood True Bible Church of Jesus Christ non-affiliated longer than anyone can remember, even longer than she can remember. All she knows for sure is she began teaching the youth Sunday school when old Dr. Venable was young, and long before the men's Bible class bestowed the title doctor on him. Miss Dora Ellis never married. She never had any children of her own, and she considered all the children of the Wildwood True Bible Church of Jesus Christ non-affiliated her children. She saw them as both a challenge and a blessing bestowed on her by her God. Of course, the class used to be larger. The congregation at the Wildwood True Bible Church of Jesus Christ non-affiliated used to be younger. But as Dr. Venable grew older, so did everybody else, and pretty soon there were mostly just older people in the church. Lately, just before the new young preacher, Pastor Billy Mitchell, showed up, the only youth Miss Dora had to teach were the children of the late bloomers, as she called them, or those occasional children that came along, to older parents. Until it came a point she was down to just two youth. One of the two was Avery Dickinson IV, who was almost 14, and the other was Jean Hope Johnson, who was 19 and still a junior in high school. The dynamics of this class did not lend themselves to group discussion, which suited Miss Dora Ellis just fine. She didn't really believe in group discussion. She'd taught this Sunday school class right through the 50s and the 60s, especially those 60s when students were trying to take over the schools and tell the teachers what they wanted to learn, and she thought group discussion was kind of like that. A great sharing of ignorance is what she called group discussion. Sunday school is much too important for that. If Miss Dora was set in her ways about teaching, she was also a very caring person. Now you take Avery Dickinson IV, for instance. Avery was skinny to the point of frailty, and he had two very unfortunate ears that fanned out from the side of his head like radar. And he went to this barber who seemed to only have one style of haircut in him that involved cutting the sides of the head down to the point where they were practically shiny. It was not the style that Avery needed, but it was what he got. Miss Dora decided the way to help Avery was to fatten him up. If she could put some heft on him, some pounds on him, she thought, it would help bring his ears more into proportion. So every week, she brought homemade sweet rolls, or donuts, or apple brown Betty to class. And Avery felt positively obliged to be there, or to call and let her know if he wasn't going to be there. Sometimes she served him up these ample helpings of apple brown Betty, and he would say, "Miss Ellis, you don't have to do this." But she'd say, "Nonsense, boy, I did the same thing for your father when he was your age." Which, of course, she did. Miss Dora had another reason for bringing the sweet rolls and the donuts and the apple brown Betty to Sunday school class, but she never mentioned it out loud. Jean Hope Johnson lived with her mother out in the country somewhere in an unpainted, run-down shack of a house. She was the youngest of an unknown number of brothers and sisters who had moved on away from the family now, leaving behind only their used clothing, which Jean Hope's mother kept patched up and Jean Hope wore. If there was a father in this family, he didn't show up very often. Miss Dora always made sure there was good, fattening food for both of her children in the youth Sunday school. She just didn't want to fatten up their bodies, though. She also wanted to fatten up their faith. She wanted Jean Hope to know that there was such a thing as a father who didn't just show up now and then, but who could be counted on. She wanted Avery to know that, well, they laughed at Jesus too. On the Sunday before Easter, Miss Dora taught her annual Easter lesson. She brought 3 empty paper cups to Sunday school, one for Jean Hope, one for Avery, and one for herself. She brought a little bucket filled with good, rich soil, not any of that Walmart potting soil that you get in a bag, but soil from her own garden that smelled like dirt. And she brought a packet of seeds. And they all planted a seed or 2 in their cups. And they wrote their names on strips of masking tape and stuck them on the sides of their cups. And Miss Dora took them home and cared for them all through Holy Week. Miss Dora learned the trick about the masking tape a long time ago when she discovered that sometimes those seeds just didn't come up. She had some more cups growing at home just in case she needed them, and she could take the masking tape off of the cup that didn't produce and stick it on one that did. And she didn't think of this as cheating at all. The lesson was not about Mother Nature. It was about Father God. And it was much too important to be left to chance. On Easter Sunday, she brought in the cups, and she brought along some unplanted seeds to remind the children of just what they had planted and how unpromising those seeds looked when you just held them in your hand. But now here they were, living, growing plants that would keep on growing. God is like that, children, she would say. The world is just full of awful things, things that would scare a grown-up half to death, not to mention children. People sometimes treat each other shamefully, she would say. Life is full of temptations, she would say, but never forget. The world is also full of hope and promise and endless possibilities. And God can take the most unpromising little things and make wonderful things out of them. And Avery Dickinson and Jean Hope Johnson sat there in their Easter best, smelling like cinnamon and apples, and they didn't say a word.